We have already talked about the lymphatic system in last class, and you know that your lymphatic system is responsible for the immunity, right? So today we'll talk about the immunity. Human body has the ability to fight against the antigens that try to harm us. So human body has that ability to fight against the antigens. That ability is called the immunity. Now, there are two types of immunity or defensive functions are present in our body. One is called the innate immunity, and another type of immunity or defensive mechanisms or functions are called adaptive immunity. So, two types of immunity we have in our body, innate and adaptive. So first we'll talk about those two types of immunity, then we'll talk about how they work in our body, okay? How they provide defensive functions. Then we'll talk about a component of immune system that is called antibody. Antibody, there are different types of antibodies. We'll see the types and also the properties of antibodies. Then the adaptive immunity has two branches, cell mediated and humoral. Those are the branches of adaptive immunity. So we'll talk about those two branches of adaptive immunity. And humoral immunity has two branches, active and passive humoral immunity. So we'll talk about those two branches of humoral immunity. So first you see immunity, okay, has two branches. One is innate immunity and another is adaptive immunity. Okay. Then the adaptive immunity could be two types, cell mediated immunity and another is humoral immunity. Then humoral could be two types, active humoral and passive humoral. Passive humoral. So could be active and passive. Okay.
So are we just learning more on adaptive, or is it really more detailed because it's better to be more adaptive than just have innate ones?
Both are powerful, but adaptive is created in your body in response to antigen, and innate we get, everybody gets by birth. When you born, you get those structures protect your body. For example, your skin, right? All of us, we have a skin that protects our body against the microorganisms, right? So that's innate. But adaptive is created in your body once you get exposed to that microorganism. Make sense? So that is the main difference between innate and adaptive. So active and passive, right? These two. Then both active and passive could be, now probably difficult to say, both active and passive could be natural and artificial. Artificial. Okay. Passive could be also natural and artificial. Okay. So that's the entire classification of your immunity. So if you just keep this in your head, it will be helpful. Okay. So this is the way how we classify. I am just repeating. Immunity has two divisions or branches or two types: innate and adaptive. Innate immunity is the immunity that we all have already in our body. We get from birth when we born. For example, skin, mucous membrane, right? We all have that. And when microorganisms try to invade into your body, your skin will protect, right? Your mucous membrane, lining, epithelial lining in the stomach, GI tract will protect your body. That's the innate. Make sense? All of us, we have macrophages in the tissue, white blood cells, right? You have white blood cells. So those like neutrophil or monocyte, we all have that, right? And they will engulf the microorganisms. So that is innate. But adaptive immunity is only produced in your body in response to an antigen. When any microorganism or antigen invades into your body, in response to that, your body produces the adaptive immunity.
So these parents that are really concerned about their baby ever smelling anything dirty or getting near anything that's not totally clinically clean are really not doing them a good service?
No, that's not really good. Okay? So you must get exposed. That will develop more immunity in your body.
So is that thymic? Can we put a thymic under adaptive?
Second?
Thymic? Thymus?
We'll talk about that soon. Okay, so now adaptive could be cell-mediated and humoral. The difference between cell-mediated and humoral is cell-mediated immunity is given by the lymphocytes, that means cells, lymphocytes, okay? T and B lymphocytes. Humoral immunity is given by antibodies. So that is the difference. Antibodies. Okay. So cell mediated is given by the cells. Which cells? Lymphocytes. What are the different types of lymphocytes? T and B. And humoral, the word humoral means fluid. So humoral is the antibody mediated immunity. You know that in the plasma, that means the fluid of the blood, you have the antibodies. Okay, now let's see. Immunity is the resistance to diseases. That means your body provides the protective functions, and that is the immunity.
All right, say that again. I'm sorry, I was doing something.
The body that provides that protective functions is the immunity. Now, innate immunity gives two lines of defense. First line of defense and the second line of defense. Those two lines of defense is given by the innate immunity. The adaptive immunity gives the third line of defense. So this one gives what?
2 lines of adaptive
First
immunity.
and second lines of defense. And adaptive immunity gives what? The third line of defense. Now, why is that? You know, in the war field, in the war field or battlefield, soldiers line up. First line, second line, third line, right? And when the enemies attack, then which line will try to protect first, prevent first? First line, right? If first line cannot, then enemies will get in, right? And then which line will try to stop? The second line, right? So your body has 3 lines of defenses. Now first you tell me, very simple question. If any microorganism or antigen tries to invade into your body first, who will try to stop? Your skin, right? Makes sense? Your skin. From outside, when the microorganism will try to invade, your skin will stop, right? So skin provides what line of defense? First line of defense. Make sense? Now if the microorganism tries to enter through the nose, inside the nose or respiratory tract, you have the lining, epithelial lining, right? Epithelial lining, mucous membrane, that will try to stop, right? So those are also first line of defense. Make sense? If the microorganism enters through food you eat, then in your GI tract you have the mucosal lining, epithelial lining, right, inside, that will try to stop. So skin, mucous membrane, those are the first lines of defense, first line of defense. Make sense? They will try to stop first. Now if your first line of defense, that means skin or mucous membrane, fails to stop, then the microorganism will enter into the tissue, right? Will pass through the skin and will enter into the tissue. And in your tissue you have what? You have the macrophages, phagocytic cells. Tissue macrophages, right? Phagocytic cells. And also tissue has certain proteins, enzymes. They will try to kill the microorganism. So they will provide what kind of defense? Which line? Second line. Make sense? The tissue macrophages, the proteins in the tissue, they will provide second line of defense. And then the third line of defense is created by the adaptive immunity. This one takes some time because adaptive immunity works through the cells, lymphocyte, and the antibodies. So to produce the lymphocytes and the antibodies for that particular antigen, it will take some time. You know that in response to antigen, antibodies are produced, right, in the body. For example, if swine flu virus enters into your body has to produce antibody against that particular virus, right? Otherwise, the antibody will not work. If another type of virus or bacteria enters, then your body will see what kind of enemy is that, right? And your body will produce that. So it will take some time. Make sense?
So it's biochemical, so it just takes.
Yeah. So that's the third line of defense given by the adaptive immunity, which takes some time to get ready. Is it clear? Okay. But your skin is already ready, right? Skin is already there. Mucous membranes are already there. Those are already in your body. Okay. Now, as I have already mentioned, that adaptive immunity or defense system is produced in response to an antigen. So that adaptive immunity must be what? Very specific. Make sense? Because that is created in response to specific antigen, right? So the adaptive immunity is very specific. Is your skin very specific to stop the microorganism? No, it will stop everything, right? It will try to stop all kind of microorganisms. but your adaptive is produced in response to that specific antigen. That's why it is highly specific. It will only act against that particular microorganism. Is systemic. Since antibodies and lymphocytes are present in the blood and inside also the lymphatic system, they will circulate throughout the body. That is systemic. That's called systemic. Move throughout the body. Adaptive immunity has memory. So memory is created. You remember in last class I said B cell produce memory cells. Do you remember that? B cells produce memory B cells and T cells do too. So they will be stored. Those memories will be stored in your body. So when second time same microorganism will try to invade into your body, what will happen? Your body will quickly respond to that because your body has the memory of the first one. Make sense? Your body has the memory of first one. So you know what kind of enemy is that, right? And your body will respond quickly. That's why we say adaptive immune system has the memory. Do your skin has memory? No, skin doesn't have any memory, right? Skin doesn't have it. It will try to just stop. It will not check. Oh, this one came before, so this is his second time. Skin cannot do that. Your mucous membrane cannot do that, right? It will just try to stop everything. But adaptive immunity has the memory system. So second time, when the same microorganism will try to invade into your body, your response will be faster and stronger. And that's why we say that if you got a microorganism before, the chance of getting second time sick is less, right? Because your body already has developed that. Now, adaptive immunity is two types. I have already mentioned here, cellular or cell-mediated and humoral. Cellular or cell-mediated immunity is given by the lymphocytes. There are two types of lymphocytes, T and B lymphocytes. Okay, that's why we say T cell mediated and B cell mediated immunity. Now we'll talk about those two types of lymphocytes. B cells, B lymphocytes are matured in the bone marrow, and when they come out, those lymphocytes are called B lymphocytes. So when the lymphocytes get matured in the bone marrow, those are B lymphocytes. Some lymphocytes go to the thymus and get matured there. Those become what? The T cells or T lymphocytes. Okay, and they learn to fight differently, and that I have explained in last class. Now, some B cells are converted to memory cells. So B cells or B lymphocytes produce antibodies, and some B cells are converted to plasma cells. Plasma cells produce plenty of antibody. Yes, and some B cells are converted to memory bases, memory cells. Will store the information about the first invasion, about the primary infection. Okay. And T cells do phagocytosis, mainly T cells. So that's the B cells. Now T cells don't produce antibodies. They do what? Do phagocytosis. Phagocytosis and go. And T cells also produce other type of cells, T cells, produce helper T cell. Cytotoxic T cells, also memory T cells. Okay. Cytotoxic T cells help to kill the cells. That's why called cytotoxic. Now, what kind of cells? The abnormal cells that are produced in your body. Cancer cells, tumor cells, those are abnormal cells, right? So, those will be killed by cytotoxic T cells. Abnormal cells like cancer or tumor cells. Okay. Helper T cells produce the chemicals, interleukins or other chemicals that will activate the other immune system cells. For example, macrophages will activate the macrophages. So macrophages will get more active and do phagocytosis to kill the microorganisms, right? So just know in simple way that helper T cells produce chemicals that activate the macrophages and other cells that will destroy the microorganisms. Okay, so that's why they are called helper. They help to activate. So that's how T and B lymphocytes work. Okay. Now here you see the same thing that I have explained to you. All blood cells are produced by the stem cells called hemocytoblasts. You know that. And after the lymphocytes are produced from the hemocytoblasts, some lymphocytes will be trained in the bone marrow and will become the B cells, and some will be trained in the thymus and will become the T cells and will enter into the lymphatic circulation, lymphatic system. Okay, and from there will enter into the blood and also come back to the lymphatic system. In last class, I have shown you how the blood and lymph fluid circulates inside those two systems.
How did these immature cells get to the thymus, and I understand how it can get to, what's the other one better?
Through the lymphatic circulation, blood circulation and lymphatic circulation.
Okay, so it's not going to be activated when it's immature, it's just going to keep going.
Right, immature cells will move through blood and then so through the lymph into the lymphatic system. Okay, now the humoral immunity is given by the antibodies. Humoral is given by the antibodies, and the humoral immunity has two branches. You see here, humoral has two branches. I gave you the classification at the very beginning, active and passive. So we'll see what is the difference between the active and passive humoral immunity. Just remember that in active immunity, your body produces antibodies against the antigen. In active humoral immunity, since it is humoral, antibodies, your body produces antibodies against the antigen. That is the active. Now, passive humoral immunity is the immunity given by the antibodies you get from outside because your body cannot produce. So you need to get the antibodies from outside. So I am repeating again, in active humoral immunity, antibodies are produced in your body. And in passive, your body cannot produce, so you get it from where? Outside. Make sense? Is it clear? Okay. Now you tell me. So that is the difference. Now you tell me. if any microorganism or antigen enters into your body has produced plenty of antibodies, right? Is that active or passive? Active, because your body is producing, right? Against that. Make sense? So it is active. Now, you got a disease like AIDS, hope not. So you got AIDS. And AIDS do what? AIDS virus destroy the immune system, right? You know that. Destroy the immune system. So your body's immune system is not working, right? Your body's immune system is not working. Now, if you get a microorganism into your body cannot produce antibody because your immune system is not working. Make sense? So, in that case, what you will do? You will get antibodies from outside because your body cannot produce. So, that is active or passive? Passive, because you are getting from outside.
Artificially manufactured.
No. Now, that's why I said here, you see, passive and active both could be natural and artificial. Okay. So, you got the idea, the difference between active and passive. Now you tell me, when you get the vaccine is what? Vaccine is actually an antigen. You know that? Vaccine is antigen. You are injecting into your body. That means you are injecting microorganisms into your body. And your body is producing antibodies against that, right? So that is active or passive? Active, because you are injecting antigen, you are not injecting antibodies, you are injecting antigen, the microorganisms into your body. So your body is doing what? Producing antibodies. Make sense? So that is what? Active. Very good.
That's the result.
Now you tell me, is that artificial or natural? You are injecting vaccine. Is that natural or artificial? Artificial. Make sense? That is the artificial active. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Now you tell me, you are walking and a microorganism has entered into your body and your body has produced antibodies. That is natural or artificial? Natural, because in nature we have the microorganisms, right? So that is the difference between natural and artificial active. Make sense? Two types of active. Now let's see passive. In passive, you are getting what? Antigen or antibodies from outside? Antibodies. Very good, because your body cannot produce, right? Okay. Now, passive could also be natural and artificial. When a baby, infant, gets mother's milk, through the mother's milk, the baby gets antibodies. So that is natural or artificial? Natural. Make sense? That will happen to all babies. Now, AIDS patient, coming back to same example, an AIDS patient, his body cannot produce antibody. So when he will get sick by antigen, infected by antigen, you have to inject antibodies from outside, right? You have to buy and inject. That is natural or artificial? Artificial, right? So you got the difference between natural and artificial passive, where you are injecting antibodies. So now you see the difference between active and passive. In active, you are injecting antigen. You are not doing, antigens are getting in, right? Or you are injecting in vaccine. That is, antigen is getting in, and uh, in passive, antibodies are getting in. That is the difference, clearly, right? In active, antigens are getting in passive, antibodies are getting in. So this is the same thing I have actually shown you from here. Antibodies. So now we know that antigens trigger the production of antibodies. That means your body produces antibodies in response to antigen. Now, antibodies are proteins. What kind of proteins? Globulin. What kind of globulin? Immunoglobulin. So, antibodies are proteins. What kind of proteins? Globulins. You remember plasma protein? Albumin, globulin, fibrinogen. So, antibodies are globulins. And those globulins give immunity. Those are immunoglobulins because they are giving immunity. And immunoglobulins are also called gamma globulins. Gamma globulins of blood secreted by the B lymphocytes as well as the plasma cells. You remember I said B lymphocytes produce antibodies, but when they are converted to plasma cells, they produce plenty of antibodies. That's why they have said secreted by plasma cells mainly. Uh, Antibodies bind with antigens to inactivate or kill them. I am repeating again. Antibodies bind with the antigens to inactivate or kill them. Now, to inactivate or kill them, the antibodies must get attached to the antigen perfectly. That is a very important point. Like see here, you have this is the antigen, okay, and antigen has harmful sites. For example, these are the harmful sites, okay, harmful sites of antigen. When you fight with somebody, you don't use all body parts, right? You use certain body parts to fight, right? Which parts do you use? Hands, yeah, legs, right? Or sometimes you bite. If you know where, you will bite, right? So those are your harmful sites, right, of your body for your enemy. Okay, so antigens have harmful sites, and when this antigen will enter into your body will produce the antibodies that must have the shape that will perfectly block that harmful site. Make sense? So your body will produce the antibody that will go there and will perfectly block that site and inactivate the antigen. Make sense? Now if your body has different shaped antibodies, it will go there, will not be able to block. Make sense? So that binding must be perfect to inactivate or kill the microorganism or antigen. So that's why your body, every time, there are millions of different types of bacteria viruses. And new bacteria viruses are being created, you know that, right? New swine flu or new flu or different types of bacteria viruses are being created. It's a kind of war, unseen war happening. When your body is trying to stop, and microorganisms, they are smarter. They are changing their configuration, shape. Make sense? Slightly, not changing and trying to get invade again into your body. And if your body stops them, your body now knows. So microorganisms also are smart, so they will change their shape and try to invade into your body. That's why we see the creation of new type of antigens, microorganisms, right? New strain. So anyway, so your body will produce the antibodies that will perfectly bind, and that is called antigen antibody complex. Okay, antigen antibody complex, and by forming that antigen antibody complex, your antibodies inactivate or kill the microorganisms. Now, the antibodies are gamma globulin, and they have specific shapes. What is that? Antibodies are T or Y shaped globulins. So their shape is like this, T or Y. Now, uh, each antibody, if you see the structure of an antibody, has 4 chains, 2 heavy chains and 2 light chains. Heavy chains are also called H chains and light are L. And immunoglobulins, there are many different types uh, termed as IG, immunoglobulin M, A, B, G, E. Those are main types, but there are more. Immunoglobulins, those are antibodies. And the shape of the antibody is Y or T shape. Now, each antibody has how many chains? 4. 2 are called what? Heavy chains, and 2 are light chains. Okay? So, we'll see that. You see here, this is an antibody. It has 2 big chains, heavy chains, and 2 light chains. Now, each chain, each of those 4 chains, you have 2 portions. The variable part and fixed part. So, each has 2 parts, the variable part and the fixed part. Okay? So, variable part, fixed part. Also, the light chain has variable part and fixed part. Okay? And the chains are connected by the disulfide bonds. Disulfide bonds. You can say disulfide. Disulfide bonds. Bonds. Those yellow structures. The chains are connected. Now, why you have 2 parts in the chains, the variable part and fixed part. Now you see here, have you seen, I'm sure all of you have seen or keep in your car toolbox, right? Toolbox, and you have the stuffs to bolt, right? To unscrew the things. What are those things?
Ratchet.
To unscrew something.
Unscrew a bolt, a wrench, or screwdriver. What is it, a screw or
The top part, bolt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have many of those, right? Different sizes.
Wrenches or...
But the shaft is only one. You'll see only one, right? But those parts are many, right? Different sizes. Because the screws have different sizes of screw. Okay, so same thing here. You have 2 parts. You see this is the fixed part and this is the variable part. Makes sense? This one you can change, right? Sometimes you can take big one or a small one, you can change, right? This part. So this is the variable part. Why your antibody has the fixed and variable part? Because you see now this is the antibody, okay? And we know that antibody binds with the antigen. So in this antibody, for example, let me use the different color. This is the variable part here. This is the variable part, okay, and this is the fixed part. Now, this is the antigen that has entered into your body, and this antigen has harmful sites like this. So this antibody, this is antigen, right? And this is antibody. This antibody will go there and will do what? Will block this. Will block this. Okay. So this is the antibody. Okay. This is the antibody. The same thing here. This structure. So antibodies will go there and will block the harmful sites using the variable part. Make sense? Using the variable parts. Now, if you see you've got another antigen that has the harmful site like this. In this case, this antibody will not work, right? Because the variable part, this part, is not matching with this. So in this case, this antibody will do what? Will change the variable part because this is variable part. You can change this. So we'll do what? We'll get the part like this. And now this one will come here and will block this. Okay? We'll block this. Same way. Here, we'll block this. Okay? So you see that this part changes depending on the antigen. Okay? What kind of antigen it should inactivate or block. So that's why you have two parts, and this is very efficient way, right? You don't need to change the handle. You don't need to, in the screwdriver. You don't need to change the handle. You only change the top part, right? And that will fix to your screw. Okay, so that's how the antibodies work. Now there are different processes of inactivation or killing of microorganisms. The main processes how the antibodies inactivate or kill the microorganisms are by neutralization, agglutination, and precipitation. Those are the main ways. Okay. Here you see microorganisms are inactivated by neutralization, agglutination, and precipitation. Those are the main ways. See the first picture, the leftmost one. That's the yellow structure is the antigen, and the blue structures are the antibodies. So you see that antibodies get attached to the harmful sites of antigens and inactivate that. You don't need to cover the whole thing. Only if you can cover or block the harmful areas, that is good. Now, agglutination. You remember blood typing. On the surface of red blood cell, you have antigens, right? And that determines the blood type. And when you give a different type of antibody, when you will give the antibody that will bind with that antigen, that means same type of antibody you will give, then what will happen? Antibodies will bind with the antigens and will do the clamping, blood clotting, that is called agglutination. How that happens is, see, those antibodies get attached to the surface of the red blood cells, and antibodies also get attached to each other. So all red blood cells will come very close to each other, will be squeezed, and the lysis of the red blood cells will occur. So in agglutination, we can say that on the surface of the cells, you have the antigens and antibodies will bind with them, and antibodies will bind to each other too and cause the clumping. Precipitation. Many antibodies will bind with many antigens and will make the structure heavy, will pull them together. So the antigens will not be able to freely move. Makes sense? Like you are tying many antibodies together by the antigens, and in that case the antigens will not be able to move freely. That is the precipitation. It will stay in one location. will not be able to move. Now, another way the antibodies provide immunity, that is very important, that is called by activating the complements. Complements, there are many different types of complements, C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, right? C8, C9. So, complements are proteins present in your blood. And when the antigen antibody complex is formed, the complements get activated. So remember that complements are normally in inactive form in the blood, proteins in inactive form. When antigen antibody complex is formed, that will activate the complements. Now, complements get activated by cascade of reactions. Have you heard this word, cascade of reactions? That means when one will get activated, it will activate the next one, and next one will activate the following one. Make sense? So, for example, when antigen antibody complex will be formed, that will activate a complement. You have many complements, C1, C2, C3, that way, right? So when that complex will be formed, then for example, this one is activating C3. Then what will happen? C3 will activate C4, C4 will activate C5, right? That way, that's the cascade of activation or reaction. And uh, the some complements, activated complements will do what? Will get attached to the membrane of the bacteria or virus and will create water channels, will open the water channels, and what will happen? Water will get in. Make sense? And when a lot of water will get in, what will happen? The bacteria or virus will burst. That is called the lysis of the microorganism, cell lysis. So you see here, for example, C3 is activating C4, then C5, and these activated complements will go where? On the surface of the antigen, bacteria, for example, and will get attached to the surface and will create water channels. So water will get in and will make the antigen big, and the lysis of the cell membrane, breakdown of the cell membrane will occur to kill the cell. That means the antigen.
So complement is not so much the process, but the thing that actually binds the cell wall and starts.
Definitely, the activated complements will work on the cell membrane, and you see here in this picture, the right upper right one, the ion channel on the cell membrane get open. Here, this is the complement. Will open the ion channel, so water will get in and cause the lysis of the antigen. Okay, so those are the things you need to know from immunity. That's the basic stuffs. Okay.